Welcome back, guys. We are here at the LCK, ready for match number 2 of the night. Bro, Breon, up against Kwangdong Freaks. This one should be an interesting one. Kwangdong did take the loss, but that was against Hama Life Esports, who looked really strong, whereas Breon took the win. That was against the new Nongshim roster.
Yeah, in a weird way, of course, we mentioned this earlier, 3 of our teams OG to start, for Breon, oddly enough, being the 2-0 team. But I think most people looked at Kwangdong's loss and were more impressed than with Breon's win. As a result, I think most people, despite the standings, of course, still favoring Kwangdong in the matchup tonight. But maybe we'll see some more Breon, some more Morgan side landing, a split pushing, win conditions, backdoor could be unlocked. I was really impressed with Bulldog's landing phase. He's still the player for me to watch right now for Kwangdong Freaks.
Yeah, it definitely feels a little bit like Kwangdong Freaks from Challengers in the way they've been for a while, which is extremely strong solo lanes, and everywhere else is a little bit behind. And they tried to catch up and make something of it. But the solo lanes are great. They're very strong. We'll see what they can do up against Bro and the Bro Leavers. And they look pretty strong in their first match. But again, that was up against Nongshim, their new roster of the Challengers that basically all got promoted up to the main roster.
Hannah looking pretty impressive in most of those games. Like, there were some moments where he overextended, but still, I think looking pretty improved in terms of, especially game 2 on the Lucian. So we'll see how he performs tonight as well, as, you know, Bro really liking to put that Lucian Nami lane into control. Now, we weren't sure if this was going to get announced here or when they did the walkout, but spoilers, Boham, it will actually be starting tonight. So, bit of a shocker for most, considering how June has been such a pivotal part of what this roster seemed to be built around for CV Max. So, you know, the question is, does CV Max have a specific pick for him in this one? Do they expect Bro is a weaker opponent, maybe get him some more experience here? We just won't know necessarily until a post-game interview.
Yeah, CV Max quoted saying, "Spring is basically a one massive scrim for us." And, I mean, we've seen teams kind of do that in the past, and it has worked out. Morgan versus Dudu, the battle that everybody has been waiting for. The kickoff event match. Morgan wins by a landslide in their match, but Dudu is seeking revenge. He played fantastically in their match against Hama Life Esports.
Yeah, he really did. 2 great top laners, I think, that honestly haven't gotten the credit that they deserve. I think Morgan is starting to get there because he's the leader, but we're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we have the interview with these players. Let's jump into it.
어떻게 보면 서로 이제 하나생명이랑 따라서 주전을 이제 맡고 플레이 나간다는 게 어떻게 서로한테 좋은 기회라고 생각하고
주전으로 단독으로 뛰고 싶은 자리를 원했고 부담감이나 책임감이 있긴 하겠지만 더 많이 힘낼 수 있게 해주는 원동력이라고 생각합니다.
많은 분들이 약간 모두 대전이라고 말을 많이 하시는데
이태와 인연이 즐기구나 싶었습니다.
또 누구야? 그래? 좋아. 모두 대전이라는 그 이름만큼 재밌는 경기 보여드리겠습니다.
라인전에서는 오히려 제가 우위를 점할 수 있을 확률이 높다고 생각해서 기대야 긴 틈 보이면 나한테 쏠킬 따니까 조심해라.
두두 선수 동주 꺾고 그 모두 대전에 뭐가 왜 앞에 있는지 제가 알려드리겠습니다.
거의 다 신인으로 구성되기도 했고 그래서 경험이 이렇게 쌓이고 쌓이다 보면 저희 팀원들 5명 전부 다 에이스인 팀이 될 것 같습니다. 저희 팀을 무릎 꿇리기가 쉽지 않을 겁니다.
화를 맞춰왔던 선수들도 많이 있기 때문에 저희가 팀워크적이나 콜적인 움직임 같은 경우는 저희가 좀 더 뛰어나다고 생각할 수 있을 것 같아요. 그 노련함으로 잘 잡아먹겠습니다.
The 2 top laners, once again, it seems like they cannot avoid each other once on the same team. Now, opponents, time and time again. Where is effort? I only see 4 players.
Well, I believe he might still be in isolation.
Oh yeah, that's right.
because
Totally forgot about that.
as
Makes sense.
he did with some of the coaching staff for Breon, test positive for COVID-19. So I think this is the meme that you see there. But they played well without him in person. Obviously, he still will be playing online. We'll probably get a shot of him here in just a moment, along with some of the coaching staff. No! Not the effort plaque. It looks just like him. It says work from home. Yeah.
He is. It's true.
Yeah, I'm taking it to the next level. And look, I mean, Guangdong Freaks, I think there's a lot to say about that loss against Hanwha, where you're just impressed with some of the macro decisions of Guangdong Freaks, some of the leads they had, the laning phases. And for Fredit, or formerly Fredit, I'm still doing this, even though I have like a note on my paper that says not to. It's going to be a tough matchup against the Freaks here, as they do walk out on stage with their Bite It masks once again, because there were, I think, a lot of holes and some weaknesses that the Guangdong Freaks are looking to exploit tonight going into this matchup. Who's to say what the impact of Moham starting tonight is going to be, because we know that June is a huge part of the shot calling on this team, and is, for most people's perspective from the outside looking in, next to Bulldog, the most exciting part of this roster, because we already know what June is capable of, right? We've seen Youngjae this time on Gen G, and Moham here, we've also seen, and we've seen some highs and we've seen some lows, and he didn't end up being the mainstay for this roster last year, although he was put in a few times to, again, middling results. So how much has he improved over the offseason is what we're about to find out.
Some Moham fans there in the audience as well, as Morgan has come ahead of Dudu in this matchup so far. It is 7-5, but it has been close. It's been a 2-1 every single time. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see that today. I mean, I think that bottom lane is going to be really interesting. You mentioned how Henna was really stepping it up, but I was also impressed by Taeyun and June down on the bottom side. I thought that was a surprisingly impressive first performance here for 2023 for that bottom.
Yeah, we saw the Ashheimer, we saw the Varus Karma. We've kind of talked about the Modu matchup pretty extensively there. You can see the history between the two players, and obviously they are former teammates. But I think that one can definitely go both ways today. And will we get an aggressive matchup up there is a question I think a lot of people want answered. The 4 champions that these two played in their previous series, Judo played Aatrox and Fiora. Morgan played Fiora in that split push win where he was able to backdoor and kill the Nexus in the late game, and then he played Renekton, the Lord himself.
Yes.
Of course he would. And of course. So I'm expecting that top lane matchup is where the observers are going to be focused quite a bit, depending on how that bot matchup does shake out, as Youngjae fans / family.
Yeah, Youngjae's family. It's funny, you know, the colors of that sign, a little bit mixed in that respect. But anyway, you know, they had the stickers there of Guangdong Freaks, so that's good, showing support for good old Youngjae. Has become a starter on this roster. He's there, he's right there in the post. See,
the resemblance is just really, it's uncanny. How does he keep his glasses on his face like that? Without attaching to his ears? So when we get into this draft, we're going to, I think, take a really close look at how these bottom lanes are going to go, because we saw Guangdong Freaks take 2 different types of pushing lanes, right? The Ashheimer, the Varus Karma, as that lightning bolt symbolized Ignor's. You know, he's here, although he's not. He's talking to the players over voice comms. And the pushing lanes we saw from Bro are the Lucianami lanes, right? So, you know, 2 times the same bottom hero for Breon. And for Guangdong Freaks, they had a little bit more creativity to their draft. Didn't work out. Believe in the sea.
Yeah. Bro select red side. Not a big surprise here.
I like that this feels like the first time in a while we've had a lot of side selection diversity at the beginning of a season.
Mostly red. but that's nice to see as well. Moving away from blue, as it has been for quite a while. I feel like eventually we'll just go back to blue. You know, it's just the way of things. League of Legends, it has been for so many years. But not yet. Not right now.
Fans very quick here. Tossing that by. Very easy targeted bans, as we will see Brion taking away that Ashe, taking away the Caitlyn. Some of the pushing lanes that we did see from Taeyun in June. Now a little bit less likely to happen. It does feel like Brion and Navarre's gone too. It feels like they're fishing for a handshake here in the bottom 2v2, the Sivir and the Zeri. So it's a Brion game. You know, it's going to be slowed down a little bit.
Still be Lucian Nami.
Could be.
Also an option.
But with this hover here on the Zeri for the Freaks, see if they want to go that route. I mean, that would be 3 for 3. And it will be less common on the red side to go for this pick, of course. We do see it more often on blue. And they get the Maokai with it early as well.
So that's available. Kwangdong Freaks say they want the Zeri matchup part of this instead. The Zeri Yumi is the choice. Sejuani again into the Maokai. Where have we seen this today, Wolf?
Not just today. Every day for the rest of our life.
Yeah. Well, until 13.2.
Yes. Every day for the rest of this week and next week.
Yep.
Okay, so everything getting pretty standard here. Now we're going to see some of these outside bans. Cassante removed. Maybe we'll see a Flora ban for Morgan. Tassadin goes away first. And Gnar, a strong champion for Dudu, of course, historically hasn't played it yet this season. But can be one he wants to pick up if he wants to have a little bit more late game team fighting prowess. Set up there with Sejuani, very nice. In terms of getting your Gnar bar up, you have a lot of peel here in this composition. The top meta is so flexible right now. These bans usually go down to the last possible second because there's just so many options. And you have to think really critically about what you want to do, what matchups you want, and what ones you want to leave available. It will be the Fjord taken away from Dudu to make sure that you can slow the game down with that side laning push.
What if we see Bro just go for Renekton and Sylas? It's like, oh, they were watching game 1 of the last series, I guess. Could happen. I mean, it's available, and those are pretty good champs for nowadays. It's Lord Morgan for Renekton. Could be a thing. You can blind the Renekton. The Kali will be banned.
Yeah.
Ours, you know, one of his big moments in the past has been on that Akali.
No doubt. He's had some great Lissandra games, too. That's another pick he could go with here, but another option would just be Renekton Azir. Here, and you can hide that final pick.
Renekton, the Azir. No, it's Syndra.
Blind the Syndra here for Kara's face up. Want to save that counter pick for last. And we really generally like the Syndra into the Sylas, actually, for what it offers you in lane. The setup here with the Maokai is really amazing for Illusion. Bulldog's still going to pick the Sylas into this. And here's the question we're going to finally get the answer is, what's the top matchup going to be? Jax here for Dudu.
Yeah.
He's historically been a big Jax fan. And
I remember he had one game where he really popped off, and it was one of the first games where we saw Uni, and it was kind of insane. And you know what? He's got a Yumi on his team again as Gnar comes out.
yeah. So the Gnar matchup into the Jax, we did see a little bit of a struggle for Rascal in this matchup against D plus Kia. Now we're going to see it again this time in the Modu matchup here, top side. Fred and Brion have a lot of great engage tools here. And Henna, he's going to have to walk that fine line we've talked about for the Lucian, but I think some of his great moments in that series that they did play against Nongshim was him doing tons of damage, being super aggressive, but the other side of that was often too aggressive and getting caught. And Kwangdong have a composition that will absolutely punish an overextended Lucian here, so got to be very careful as there's that shot of effort finally here. I feel like overall, I want to say I like Kwangdong's composition better. It's more well-rounded, has a lot of late-game power, has a Sylas. I trust Bulldog in his laning phase. I think a lot of other mid laners against the Syndra would struggle, but I think he's going to do very well. I'm feeling good about their chances here in terms of what this comp can do if Henna does not get ahead on this Lucian.
It's a Young J fan here. Scream out for Young J. God. And, you know, I think he's got a little bit to go until he reaches that level, but you got to start somewhere. He's going to be playing Sejuani this time. He's a Dudu fan.
One of many. I've always been, I think, one of the biggest championers of Dudu because he's been on weaker teams but has been a star player up in his own right. And picking this matchup here, the Jax open into what will be the counter pick of the Gnar. It's going to be a skill-based matchup, but Morgan has the range advantage here. We saw this go, as I mentioned, very poorly for Rascal, the only time we've seen this matchup so far this season.
Well, we'll have to see how it goes this time as we hit the rift for Breon versus Kwangdong Freaks. Here we are, already match 8 here in the LCK 2023 spring.
Now with a lot of 2-0s, it does feel like the week has flown by in a lot of ways. Had our Saturday showdown just before this.
Yeah, I'm ready to hunker down though. You know, it's Breon time. We got our Giga chance all around us.
Our longest 2-0 just a few days ago.
We can sit back. Thing is, though, is that Breon's comp is not necessarily, you know, a big-time scaling comp. I do feel like Lucian Nami has shifted some of their power more towards the mid-game.
Yeah.
But, no, late game still relatively strong, but it's not like you've got, like, insane hyper carries on this roster or anything like that.
Yeah. I think that you have a composition that can play around objectives extremely well if the positioning is good. And
yeah, their turn is great.
Their turn is great, right? And if you get the faster setup on Drakes, as we know Breon loves Drakes, it's their favorite thing.
Is Drake their favorite rapper, though? What do you think?
I would say, you know, decent chance. Decent
You
chance.
think so?
He's just pretty popular these days. All the kids love him, you know? Although I guess, you know, we're getting older, you know?
Yeah, maybe the kids don't love him.
Yeah, maybe we're just in the wrong generation here. I do want to point out that we do see once again the first strike variation for the Maokai here for Umpty, and he did go for the Scorch Pet. And we have Paris taking Electrocute on the Syndra, not going for the poke with the Airy to try to poke out in lane and get that harass done. Can still obviously harass with Electrocute, more difficult to proc in the early levels. Very strong, I think, in mid-game fights, though. Adds a lot of extra burst.
Yeah, it's very nice. That's essentially going to be his role, is to be, you know, somewhat CC initiator plus burst AP carry. A lot of the AP damage from him and, of course, the Maokai. As Maokai is on a big winning streak, 6 in a row. Definitely some nice names on that list, including Umpty, I believe.
Yeah, speaking of Umpty, I'm going to go for the flash here.
This is the most Giga Chad move. I mean, what can you say? This is the way. I mean, Peanut kind of championed it. And he's going to try to go over the wall here, but you're going to get knocked off. And he's not even going to bother flashing because he knows he's already done Umpty. Amazing gank. Perfectly timed. Very well read. Right when the lane was in a perfect spot. Nicely done by Henna and Effort as well.
Yeah, Henna and Effort putting the wave in this place. And you can get kind of tricked, I think, as the Zerayumi. When you're starting to take some trades like that, you have that sustain into thinking like, wow, I can get this wave into the mid part of the lane and we're not going to be under that pressure early. And, you know, ward in the brush, in the river, you feel safe until Umpty wall flashes and gets on top of you. So, you know, Taeyun and Moham here, not doing anything wrong per se, just kind of getting caught with their pants down a little bit here by an unexpected play from Umpty. The cost is great, obviously, because you use your flash for this, but well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to get that lane ahead and get Henna online just a little bit quicker. And Umpty, he has always been the guy for Breon and for this roster for so many years now that always gets it started. And a lot of their early game has depended on him. A lot of times, Bro would just kind of sit back and lane, and it wouldn't necessarily be dominating lanes or anything like that. It would be up to Umpty to make ganks happen. Otherwise, it would be here he is, making a gank happen.
Yep. Up up here on the top side. Youngjae spots him out. Is going to...
Umpty spots him out.
Yeah, they spot each other, you know. And it's a little bit of sapling action. And nothing exciting will come of this, but... Yeah, Umpty, I think, is a player that reminds me so much of some of our other early game junglers we've had over the last few years that were so defined by that playstyle, like Dread, for example, isn't in the LCK this season, but it's been such a aggressive early game jungler. So Umpty avoids both of these wards here in the river and flashes this, and by the time you flash Tri-Brush there, even if there's a ward in that Tri-Brush, it doesn't matter, it's too late by the time you see him here if you're this far up in the lane. He waits patiently for the wall ride, and as you mentioned, Taeyun's not going to flash for this Moham. Is like, I'm sorry, I'm evacuating, and just as simple as that.
Moham did heal and exhaust, which, you know, I guess a little bit questionable. The exhaust was like a slight play, but what are you going to do? It's like, you know, just not try and save everything. I think if they had used everything and maybe reacted a split second faster, there was a chance to actually get out. Better to just leave it as is, keep the flash on Taeyun so they can actually have some lane presence for the next 5 minutes.
And with the trades in this matchup too, with Dilution, if you decide you want to just try to back off, like it can cost you a lot of power and wave positioning, so you can't just, you know, you probably don't want to be pushing that far up and you want to be walking back when you're not last hitting minions, but you can't just say, well, I don't want this lane to be here. You don't get to control that necessarily in this case. Just a little bit of greed there and good setup from Hannah and Effort.
Yeah, and now take a look at this. Umpty says, well, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. They push the wave. Bulldog's getting in there. Very nice trade. Gets just right outside the turret aggro, which is very good. But yes, this first Infernal on the bottom side, just, you know, building upon the snowball that Umpty started. And he has been on top of Youngjae the entire time outside of the one gank, right? He spotted the top, kept Morgan safe, went to the bottom side, won that skirmish, and then he was able to take the Drake with his bottom lane. Umpty is dominating the Rift right now.
It certainly is. As that early Giants belt. Bulldog hits level 6, won't be able to use this ult in this skirmish. And yeah, during all of this, they also come over and get a good trade bottom side. Henna and Effort do. They're on to Taeyun and Moham, who are just slightly behind in that experience, so they're going to get a nice free back here. And, you know, the early parts of the Zeri-Lucian matchup generally go this way, but, you know, when you have the help of a great jungler like Umpty, who's really got so much map control, who's tracked Youngjae so well, as you say, it's a lot easier to get that free back and to manage these waves extremely well. Effort just going to come up here and roam mid to assist during the back timing of Henna. And we do see a first strike here for Bulldog once again, similar to what we saw from Chovy earlier, looking for that early Rod of Ages. We'll keep track of what timing he gets that. Already has his Catalyst online.
Youngjae is top side of the map, so is Umpty, and they knew that Umpty was on the top side of the map. They didn't know exactly where he was, though, so they knew, okay, there's a chance that Umpty's right there for the counter gank. And to be honest, on Youngjae, I'm like, oh man, this guy is everywhere that I am. So I think I'm just going to back away. Obviously, Mega Narva's coming up, and we're going to splash. So chance of that gank actually working pretty low in the first place. So he takes it the safe route and just goes home.
Bulldog is going to use this to clear this wave away and try to scout out Umpty is lurking nearby. He's going to take that opportunity here. You can use that Silas first hijack to get a back. We saw Chovy do in the previous series nicely. And this is Bro with this timing of the back for Bulldog, which was very telegraphed, obviously. They're just going to group up and take Herald, and they have full control over the river, full control ward vision from top to bottom. So Henna and Effort with that push can come up to mid. They're not going to miss anything for a while. Carlos holds this big point with Scatter. It's a clean play from Breon right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say anything negative about this. The top lane, Dudu is ahead in CS, but I mean, the Jax has been often picked in the Gnar and feels like a pretty good matchup. And it has been pretty unaffected by the junglers, outside of just, you know, that one moment where they swap dive. About it. The observers here also showcasing the amount of vision that Breon has, so that's going well for them as well. Hongdong Freaks not massively behind, but certainly Breon rather have for themselves.
Late gold here, as we're going to see a 3v3 contest on bottom side. The advantage goes to Umpty because he has those two control right now on this board, sampling him, try to take this scuttle, get some extra movement speed from that. Right now, Taeyun and Moam need to be very careful about how far up they are in the lane.
Youngjae is going extremely deep for this. I mean,
Karis isn't in lane, so I think, you know,
okay.
there's an angle there, but I was also, until I noticed that, I didn't notice that, I was like, scary choices.
Man is angry.
Yeah, Bulldog's gonna grab a plate here, which is massive in his race for that. Cool guys don't look at plate breaks.
Yeah, they don't panic either.
Never.
Even after yesterday, still not panicking.
Nope. Never. Not gonna happen. That's the slogan. That's the rules.
Yeah.
You lose your cool kid status if you panic. That's what it means.
Not allowed to be a Live Sandbox fan if you panic.
No. I mean, you could be a non-cool kid who's a Live Sandbox fan. But
True.
I like to think that all
Then
Live
you're not
Sandbox
cool.
fans are cool. You know, personally.
Yeah,
That's my personal take, but that's why Chronicler's so cool.
sure seems that way. Yeah, he's a good example.
Yeah, he's our biggest testimonial. We do have this group up around second Drake here for Breon.
Ooh, bringing the ult out here as flashing away from the tidal wave. Taeyun is getting on top of Henna, but it's not quite enough as they do get pretty low as well. And
Karis is
guess
coming.
who's bot first? It's Umpty and it's Karis. I don't think this is going to end well for Taeyun and Moham, as Taeyun will go down. Moham is not quite able to jump as he did get rooted. That is a couple of kills. And the trade was really close, but guess what? The difference maker is Umpty and Karis.
Sometimes you're looking at the small things, the micro fight there, in terms of dodging there. That was beautifully played from Taeyun, but the big macro picture is your mid laner's not coming down faster. Umpty's got the fast track. You know where Youngjae is, or where he isn't specifically in this case, is backing you up. And you've got to remember, too, that Bulldog knows that Karis has the fast track. He should be calling this out, and it's a group up for Drake, right? This is the timing in which everyone on Breon is trying to come over here and take this second Drake anyways, so what could have been a really cool play there for Taeyun, and mechanically, in the isolated 2v2, if we take the rest of the map away, it was well played. But in the grand scheme of things, you get punished here. Now, 2,000 gold on top of a 2-Drake lead for Breon, and you know, this is not something that can't be recovered from for Kwangdong Freaks. They have really good scaling aspects of the comp, but it's certainly not the Pays Zeri angle so far that we're seeing.
They got the consolation prize of the Hextech Drake, so that's just going to happen.
They actually did get it with the
Breon, they all had to back, so it's just meant to be. And yeah, I mean, Taeyun, maybe better communication, has to know that they can't all in at this exact time.
I mean, look at where, like, miles away, unfortunately, was Bulldog, you know? And he has to be communicating. Yeah, like, he has to be communicating, I'm not there, as this is happening. I think this is just a moment where you see Taeyun pulls the trigger, sees blood in the water, and he's like, I am going to force this fight. I see a window. And when you're a newer player, like, Taeyun has a lot of experience, obviously, but not so much in the LCK. You have that instinct of, I can actually make this play happen, pick up some gold on Zeri really early here, and actually accelerate my way to my first Mythic. You end up missing out here big time, unfortunately, because the communication isn't on point. Which is, I think, in a lot of ways, kind of odd considering how good the communication seemed in that first matchup with Kwangdong.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely going to be something they have to work on. Perhaps June was doing a good job of, you know, keeping the reins on in their first series. Jonas Strong was trying to show, by the way, that Effort did flash the wall because they were getting collapsed on. So, little thing there. Effort doesn't have flash at this moment in time. But that's about it. Top lane, you know, we keep looking up there for some reason. Morgan has caught up a little bit in CS. It's not as far behind. Other than that, Fred Breon, not Fred, just Breon. Still difficult.
Not just me this time.
Yeah. Chronicler had a counter of how many times people were going to mess up D plus Kia's name. I got that one right, but still working on Breon. Here's Bulldog. Gonna miss that one, but the Gnar is available. Better Gnar, you know. Morgan just gonna flash away. And everybody's like, whoa, that was crazy. He used his flash. Wow.
He's got Hearthbound Axe, which I think is part of why this is starting to go a little bit better for the Gnar, is you can get that extra movement speed with that item on your way to your first Mythic. And just dodges very nicely there, then flashes. Loses a flash, but still much better than losing your life there. And Bro, you know, I did misspeak earlier because we were in a replay and I thought they were taking the Drake, but they didn't get the Drake, but they still have a pretty massive lead, and dealing with that cross-map play staves off all the pressure they need to grab the bottom turret. So we're looking at gold across the board here for everyone, and we're starting to get closer to rapid fire cannon here. Gale Force has been up for a while, and Guangdong Freaks haven't been able to start a 5v5 team fight on their terms. And yes, it's a Zeri scaling comp, but it has such good initiation. It can fight earlier than a lot of other Zeri comps would like to. And that Zeri moment is what Taeyun and this Guangdong squad is looking for here on an early objective, but they missed the boat on the Drake. They got the Drake, but not the Drake fight they wanted. Got the, Herald, did Bro, and the whole turret means that it just gets a little bit more awkward here. We still have 2 minutes to go before the next objective spawns.
And Youngjae's just going to start this one off.
How about this?
Umpty says immediately, no, you're not allowed to do that, but they do have to be careful about overextending here. Umpty's kind of alone, so they just burst them down. A huge amount of damage coming out from the Guangdong Freak squad.
Taeyun is still very healthy here, but remember, he's still early game Zeri. Holding onto the aggro here on this Herald is a lot tougher than it looks. They may just reset. And it's going to go just straight mid.
He's like, yeah, not enough with that. Can I just Gale Force someone in mid? Oh, well, you found your option. He is dead. Karis with a massive scat of the week. And that is going to alley-oop. Nice amount of damage comes out from Henna as well.
First damage there with the ultimate 2 coming through, and that's the end of Zeri. And it was really risky for Guangdong to latch onto this Herald, but knows how far away Morgan is in this fight. Maokai ultimate coming through. You feel like maybe with that, and of course the Nami ult coming through, you could save him. So you feel pretty immortal starting that one up. A little bit greedy with the turn there, the attempt to contest. And then this is just Taeyun at max range. Goodbye.
And, if the blast plant wasn't upgraded, he wouldn't have made it over that wall that fast, and he wouldn't have died.
Wow, you're real. Really pushing the turret.
So, you know what? I think the Chemtech Soul is not. It's not good.
Getting buffed in a future patch. We'll see. I mean, it's pretty good for Zeri. It's overall, yeah, it's kind of like the new old Cloud, but like it's the one we got, man.
It's like the new old Rod of Ages.
Now you've lost me.
That one is really good.
That one, the new old Rod of Ages.
Yeah.
That one is actually good. It's very good. In fact, 6 stacks of it on Bulldog now, but this Drake is moving Freon's way here, uncontested. And with Zeri being 0-3 and still without the Immortal Shield Bow here, Taeyun just, as much as they would have liked to try to set up for good many kills now, reliability more than anything else here.
Up to your on vision. Gonna allow them to push this back away as actually Youngjae goes in alone, but Bulldog is looking for the flank, trying to take out effort here. The tidal wave does sail a bit wide as Bulldog's in alone, but now Dudu is able to split up the fight as well. Double flankers finally get the job done. Wasn't the cleanest, but they did pick up a kill here for KDF.
And you can see why Guangdong kind of held their ground there after they saw Umpty, because they knew that they have this really awesome flank angle. This is extremely well played by Guangdong, as this will charge through, but not going to get the turret. They were really patient with this, and with the flanking Silas, you can get on top of Effort. He has flash, but one of the best ways to siege a turret like this, when you have this many minions, is to actually save the Maokai ultimate for the turn, so that you can't get flanked and you have a really nice escape angle. But as soon as he uses it here aggressively, they don't have enough damage or long range here to actually follow up, and it's really easy for Silas to go, there's no Maokai ult anymore, I'm coming in. Forcing the flash out of Effort there, grabbing some kills and some extra gold. 1 kill, the first one to Taeyun. He picks up his Immortal Shield Bow now. We're still a ways away, but hey, 1 step in the right direction.
Yeah, he was pretty far behind Lucian, as you mentioned before. Good for him to pick up something, begin to get some of the crit online. As Freon really want to take down this mid turret. Like, this has been their focus for it feels like 5 minutes. And they finally do it.
Speaking of Dudu.
Here he is.
That's demolished.
That's Dudu. Yep, that's him.
Yeah, but He won't do it this time. We'll get shut down. And I mean, a lot of resources committed to that. Like you say, losing that team fight, then grouping up as 5, giving Jax the ability to do a ton of damage to that bottom side turret. It doesn't quite take it out, but gets a lot of free space. And it looks like a trap might be set up here. Karis is too wise to it.
Yeah. Karis is a very wise player.
He certainly is, isn't he?
He oftentimes takes his time. It's taking him a little bit to really stake his claim for his spot on the LCK. But he is a strong player, just only getting slowly but surely stronger.
You know who he reminds me of a lot? And this is going to be a reference to only StarCraft fans get, but not Impact the League of Legends player, but Impact the StarCraft 2 player, who was like a Blue War trainee for a while. Just kind of came and played behind Jaedong for a really long time, same way Karis played behind Chovy, BDD, right? And he eventually did become a great player, but it took a long time, right? He was a young player, and then everyone was like, well, how long do we say he's a young player? I think Karis is one of those examples of you can see the clear talent as this player does go down. You can see the clear talent in this player, right? I think he potentially is going to be one of the greats. Just needs a little bit more time.
Bit of a rotation. Dudu is on the run, is going to dodge that one and has to flash away. No further houses to be thrown. And Dudu will be just fine. No action allowed. We do have the straight coming up here in a minute and a half, though, so maybe, just maybe, Freaks will fight for that one.
It is almost 2-item Syndra here for Karis. He's probably sitting on just under enough gold to finish that Seraph. He's got his tier stacked up. It's going to be a big spike for him. And these fights has had his Leandres for a while, but this is going to add so much extra damage to that. The side laning here for Kwangdong has been great. Grabbing both of those outer turrets, and the mid turret is nearly down. Gold difference here much smaller after the, failed mid ult from Umti in that dive that didn't succeed, and the amount of resources spent to mid buys Kwangdong a lot of time. 1 kill only on the Zeri, but Sylas is starting to come online, truly. Has finished stacking his Rod of Ages, so is close to level 16. And suddenly this game is a lot closer than it was moments before, and if Zeri had that second Eye of the Phantom Dancer online, you could maybe make an argument that you're ready to fight actually for the Soul Point. Drake, 30 seconds to go. With no Zeri second item here, it's going to have to be out-positioning that wins the day here for Kwangdong, but they may just simply decide to push Sylas deep into the top lane and threaten inner instead. Tough call to make right now. You don't want to give that Soul Point over, but it is Chemtech Soul.
He's doing a really good job of just posturing really aggressively, trying to create essentially a wall pretty far up on the battlefield, trying to clear out all the vision, deny control wards. They already have control of the river. There are no flank wards for Kwangdong Freaks. So if they want to enter this fight, it's got to be, like this, through the bottom lane or something like that. As here we go. Bulldog is insanely tanky because he's level 15. He's got a Rod of Ages. And through all of that, he will live and he will heal up as he is Sylas.
Now they're going to try to circumvent this positioning here for Breon on the bottom part of this Drake. Taehoon's position needs to be perfect here. If he gets caught, it is all over. Bulldog very low here to carry this fight.
He's going to get healed up a bit, but that is a very nice scatter once again. Even Young Jae has taken a big chunk. He's got a Warmogs, but I don't think it's ready to be regenning at this point in time. As here we go, the stolen ultimate will come through as in goes the Jax, immediately pushed away. It's stolen by Sylas as Bulldog is going to take it down. Umpty a little bit wrapped here with Taehoon. Might have to flash out of this one as Dudu is unkillable with the cat on his back, but now they're looking to turn here. Dudu gets a bit lower, and the scatter again. Karis just keeps on hitting these. As again, guys, Bulldog is actually unkillable. Don't even. Yeah, they're like.
But
yeah, okay.
this is a massive
Fine,
fight
okay.
for bro. But
And also,
this is a massive
I know.
fight
I
for
was
bro.
joking about
And
the Sylas.
also,
They're actually going to go straight to the Baron. I was joking
It's
about the Sylas.
crazy
They're
how
actually going to go straight to the
they are
Baron.
going to go to It's this Baron crazy with how low health bars, but they are going to Sylas go to this Baron with seemingly backing. They feel safe about this. He's not actually at level 16 just yet. His hijack just came back online. He's coming over here. They've got a sense for this. I think it's going to be a little bit too late. However, the sapling going to slow Young Jae down.
Umpty might have to sacrifice. Bubble is good. So good in this meta.
Syndra is super good in this meta.
Karis is playing like a boss.
You also have 2 items here, right? Hits the spike right before the Drake fight, but You talked about how there's no flank wards. So in order to set up this Bulldog hijacked Maokai ultimate, he had to teleport mid, dealt with all of that pressure, harassed, then walked all the way around to set up for this, which is what allows them to zone out and go for a 50-50 split, which they miraculously win. This is about as good as it gets for Quantum Freaks, but Bulldog makes the heroic play. There's no vision, there's no flank wards, there's no way to actually try to trap the backline. So he has to fight his way all the way around. Remember, he started on the other side of this one, completely around, gets rooted here, and still gets in here to steal the Drake away. And with that Maokai ult coming through, Reddit Brion can't collapse quickly enough. Look at where Hannah is in this fight. They all split beautifully here against Dudu, cost them several summoners in order to do so, but this is when the turn happens, right? The fight is won for Bro, and they still lose that Drake. So 5 minutes of extra time here bought for the Zeri to get 3 items.
Yeah, it was excellently played. You're able to kite so well with Lucian and Syndra together. Not to mention everybody else on the team. Yeah, they were just able to feel the pressure and then turn right back when the time was right. So excellently done in the team fight there from Brion. And now they've got Baron here. It's not a massive gold lead. Again, it's only about 2,500. Dudu is pretty massive. You know, Bulldog has hit level 16. Car's still on 14. He doesn't have that rod, right? So, you know, it feels, although Brion were able to get this massive objective in a pretty good team fight, they're not getting a huge amount of value out of this.
They really aren't. Syndra with no vision here, you know, of where the Sejuani is, which you see some question mark things, I guess, gauging where he should be. The control wards here on the river. Youngjae is bodyguarding for Duda to take this turret.
Flash away. And a tidal wave is coming through. We have Humpty on the way, as he's going to flash as well. Now teleport coming in, as we are going to look for Dudu even on the side of Humpty, just trying to get as much value as possible. As in comes the Gnar. Finally, a house is going to hit onto Dudu. That's going to be the one, and the scatter will be enough to collect the kill. So that's 2 big kills in the side lane that will be given over to Brion.
It looked really scary there for a moment, like perhaps Bro had been out macro. Syndra was top side there. Karis, a lot of question mark pings. He was very slow to move up because he didn't know where Youngjae was. But the second they find out where he is, they collapse him. Morgan is there to try to shut down this push. He's concerned that he's going to get collapsed on by the Sejuani that they don't see. But they have TP. So they get that top turret and TP over and actually end up taking both kills. Beautifully played here from Bro. Very fast time there. And Karis really playing both sides. Side lanes very well here. Top side, and then comes down and picks up his 4th kill of the game. He is massively ahead. So look at him on the mini-map here. Karis, top side. Morgan buys a ton of time here. Effort also with the tidal wave. And then Umpty comes over with ult. The call is made for Karis to TP in, and this hits just barely, so they decide to go on to Dudu. Like you said and called in the play-by-play, as soon as they catch Dudu, they're like, well, this is actually a double. We're going to make that teleport worth it. Scatter hits, 2 kills going over. 500 more gold over to Karis.
He's pretty massive at this point in time. As you can see, he's got his Void Staff now. So if he was having a little bit of issues with the Sejuani in particular, he won't be here on out too much. And now we will have another Drake on the way, about 30 seconds. Kwangmu Freaks, it feels like they are really trying to play around Korea at this point in time. It feels like they don't feel too confident taking team fights just yet. Maybe they're waiting for a third item on the Zeri, because you'll note there's 4 people top, right? They're just trying to split push against Bro.
They keep protecting the side lane of the split pusher. And because they won that 50-50, this Drake that's spawning right now for Brion to take is not actually soul, but simply soul point. They grab a whole turret here, and they're like, yeah, you guys are grouped for Drake. We're grouped for money, because we want the Zeri to get some extra gold to get those items. Now, well, Zeri was not actually picking up that gold top side. He was just trying to let this wave push into farm freely. Those the respect team shows here as well. They're on Drake, but how close are they to the Drake? I don't want to get collapsed on. I don't want to get punished here. But any sort of time buy like that 50-50, this is why we're talking about how it's so impactful here. It means that they're closer and closer to a real potential team fight here. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it still feels very grim because Karis is giga-fed and Morgan is level 17. It's definitely a Giga Chad.
That's really clever. Yeah.
Gotta do it for the Lord. And in 1 minute's time, it doesn't look like Taeyun's going to have that third item online. Doesn't quite have enough money. He's getting very close. But Brion have this setup here. And Dudu's trying to make this I'm split pushing bottom, someone has to react, I have TP, like he's trying to do Jax things here. Let's see if it's successful, because this is the same play they attempted last time. Youngjae comes up here with some control vision, knowing that they don't know where he is. And Karis doesn't have teleport this time.
Yeah, you know, that was almost a really nice set play, but there are 2 plants to spot him, so no fun to be had in the bottom lane. Bulldog, again, going to be split pushing in the other lane. Just setting up this one. Feels very strong by himself.
Yeah, they're basically playing tennis a little bit here with Brion. Pulling them all bottom side there. Then you see the side lane comes through for Bulldog. Getting closer to his death cap here. Level 17. It's only temporary what they get bottom side here. And as Bulldog backs, this might be the time to pull the trigger now for Brion here on this Baron. As it just comes to spawn. This is going to be probably the fight that decides the game, very likely.
Yeah. So that effort to use the Scryer's Bloom on the top side actually backwards to try to check for more flank wards. Like, look at how meticulous they are.
Yeah.
They're like, if we get flanked by Silas or Jax, we're probably going to lose. So as long as that doesn't happen and we can kite them back, we will have a good chance in these fights. We will have great turn, as you did talk about at the very beginning of this game.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job of setting up exactly what their win condition is in these team fights.
Really would love to see Taeyoon's gold right now. He's got one more wave. He's going to pick up here in mid. The rest of his team just trying to buy time. He's got to be so close. He doesn't have enough just yet.
It would be nice if he could farm.
Yeah, he has to wait for these to come through, which means they lose control of Baron. Catch 22 problem here. Look at all the control wards. This is actually
1340.
insane.
I think he has enough, right? I think it's 1325. Either way, they are going in now. No IE available as, okay, Maokai versus Maokai. And a little bit of a flank here from Morgan behind Bulldog. But again, those guys are really scary individually, especially with the Yuumi on their back.
All right, somebody might have to TP to deal with this. They can't actually do Baron right now. This is a big problem here. Once again, Bulldog comes in, steals the Yuumi ult, starts an engage, doesn't actually have to commit, or the Yuumi ult goes through on top of him, doesn't actually have to commit further, and Jax gets inner turret. Bro lose control of the Baron and lose all of that control ward vision they had on the Baron pit. So much, actually, of the map lost here, and if Brion can't start dealing with these split pushes a little bit better, they might end up losing out on this one. The 1-3-1 is strong.
Yeah, it's kind of insane how consistent the pressure is as well, as this is a nice item value chart that we do have here, including showing what they are currently holding and how much they have earned.
Yeah, the IE is complete now for Taeyoon, so they bought enough time with that Jax push.
Still, Henna is 1.2k ahead in item value, plus he's got an extra 1,700 in the pocket, so could be potentially, item ahead at some points here. As long as he goes back and spends that gold.
See effort calling from home here on this setup.
Agent 007.
There he is.
He's undercover. That's why he's not here.
I was gonna try to make a they call me bot. It's not, I mean, just call him 007.
Yeah, I think that's good.
We'll leave it at that. Dudu once again trying for this. No Sejuani attached to him this time around, and looks like we're just gonna have Bro decide to group up for the easier objective here of the Drake. It's taken that long.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage on the Youngjae. He has to turn and throw an ult. I mean, look at how low he is. That is just one button press from the Lucian.
And if he backs here, it's going to be a big problem in terms of the smite.
But he does have Warmogs, by the way.
He does have Warmogs, yeah, that's true. And Radiant as well, so.
Oh,
actually, yep, he's back up. It's okay.
Okay, well, we
Still
do
gonna
have
lose the
the recall back from the Syndra, but again, in the solo 1v1, like, Karis can't step up to that Silas. It's not going to happen. The TP comes in here for Kwangdong. They are going to start up this Baron. And yes, Brion got the Chem Tech Soul, but is that going to help them in this fight? Megan are about to time out here, too.
If Lucian's at less than half health here, that's probably not a good thing. So he's not going to get much advantage out of it. Same with the Syndra, right? So not too huge for their composition. Bulldog actually has the Syndra ult. He's circumvented the entirety of Brion here. Brion, you're going to have to make a call here.
Zon Vision. They still don't know where Bulldog is, but they have a pretty good idea. Okay, now they know. Sapling is going to hit him. Morgan trying to build up into that Meganar. He's doing so much damage to that front line, but Karis has to be so careful. In the 1v1, as I mentioned, he's not going to have a good time, but Bulldog separated from his team. Henna getting the focus of the camera as well. As we track him out of the top side. Effort is in no man's land, nearly dies to the Sejuani. And now Henna is alone as TPs are coming in. This is a wild fight, as Youngjae might be the one guy who gets left out to dry, and he absolutely will be, as a massive Gnar jumps over the top and takes him down. So now no jungler for Kwangdong.
This was so well handled from Bro. At the beginning, it looked very worrisome. As they're going to try to maybe look for a split push here to win the game. TP coming through. Morgan sees it, though. It's really easy for Bro to just back off here and defend. They'll stop the Baron this way, though.
Taeyoon also walks straight into a scatter. Just straight into it, like perfectly on the timing of where that was going to drop down. And Kwangdong now a little bit out of sorts, as Bulldog is not even able to take down Henna. Very nicely handled there. So very desperate attempt to push and end the game. Again, there's no inhibitor there.
It's just a Hail Mary at this point. You're just hoping that...
So now Bro can end the game.
Yeah, you're just hoping that Bro gets stuck on Baron and you could delay, but you don't have good delay. You telegraphed it with a teleport, and Karis is like, all right, let's sandwich.
Telegraphaport.
Yes. And you get the best target.
It's the new name.
And
anyway, continue.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much else to say here. They stopped the last attempt there from Kwangdong, and the side laning was so close to turning this one, but they didn't have enough time.
Dudu is pretty strong, but again, he's alone, and there's no Yumi at this point in time. He is going to flash. They are desperately trying to hold on to these Nexus turrets. They are going to get rid of the minion wave, which is most important, but Rion realized it, and Henna's got different ideas. He nearly blows up Tatum, but nearly blows up himself as Morgan gets a bit baited. This is not a clean game.
No, it's not.
This is insane.
It's not going to end here either necessarily. The Nexus turret is about to go down here. They do just with that respawn of the inhibitor minions, actually, or the super minions from mid. Stop it.
No TP for Dudu, otherwise they probably would have lost the game.
Yeah.
And that's like 20 seconds away.
Yeah.
Just like, think about that.
By the way, as a result, someone is going to have to stick back here, which means Kwangdong Freaks may get the Baron. Like, this game is still winnable.
It's alive.
How much health? 60, 61.
It was lower than that, too.
Yeah. Kwangdong Freaks have such a strong win condition here, which means that Credit Rion have to clear this wave for a long time before they can actually start up the Baron. I'm a little bit surprised that Kwangdong didn't try to use that pressure to actually start the Baron themselves and go for a turn, as they're going to put Dudu in a side here, try to hide him on the map, that he can come in and end the game if he's given enough space. And also, of course, threaten that bottom inhibitor on the opposite side of the map so they can slow us down. Zeri now, you know, on that nearly GA, getting very close here. Taeyoon's level 15, so the side laning from Dudu bought so much time. He's even got the Spear of Shojin now, too, so he can team fight pretty nicely, too. This game is wild. I've stumbled through it a few times, I'll be real with you.
We are definitively off the rails, for sure. That is one thing I can say. Now, Dudu is a little bit far away. Rion have to be so careful about not getting stuck in this pit. How many times have we seen this in League of Legends?
A lot. Here we go. He's going for the fight.
He's going in for the fight, and unfortunately, Youngjae tries to get in there and immediately dies. So that was not the call from Kwangdong. They are not able to get the split push. They are not able to challenge the Baron, and Brion rather will take game number 1, as this is a rout, unless Dudu has, you know, rocket boots and he's just going to run down mid or something. But not looking likely.
TP anymore. Yeah. He TP'd to the fight, and I would love to hear the comms in that moment for Kwangdong, because it seemed like there was a very split call between delaying and actually just forcing the fight. Bro more decisive. And that's going to be it. You know, nothing clean about it, but I thought we had a fantastic early game for Brion, right? They managed the Lucian comp very well. They controlled the map. They had insane vision set up, trapped the Jax multiple times. Eventually, he became too tough to stop, though, in a side lane. And it started to look like, uh-oh, Kwangdong could come back here if they keep getting these side lane pushes, delaying the Baron. Infinity Edge comes up for Zeri. Suddenly, we're talking about GA, and it started to look like, oh, man, Dudu almost did it. But in the end, they make the call to turn on the Baron a little bit late. The TP comes through. They just kind of throw everything into that fight and lose the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Brr. Oh. Fnatic. What?
The sneaky Fnatic
I
gets
knew
him
there was
every
something
time.
coming. Yeah. Okay. Bro. Nicely done. But that was that certainly could have gone either way, right? There were about 20 minutes there where I was unsure who was going to win, and that's not very common. So CV Max has got to sit the boys down and try to calm everything down. I would say that one was a very kind of crazy, all over the place one. Very difficult kind of comp to play as well.
Even though that was it was a messy game, I think it was a game that showcases all aspects of League of Legends, right? In terms of what you could do with your scaling, what you could do with tempo advantage, vision, team fighting, split pushing. I mean, we really had a little bit of everything in this game. You look at how low the damage is on Kwangdong's lineup overall, because Tame never got to have a proper 5v5 fight. The one he wanted was just shut down repeatedly by Karis, who just was everywhere at once, doing so much. But make no mistake, this game was extremely close, as you said, and one TP 20 seconds faster, and Dudu does win this game, actually. And we're looking at a 1-0. Like, this was on a knife's edge, and sometimes it goes to show a Jax can be the decider, even if your Zeri never comes online.
Yeah, the Jax very well played there on the side of Dudu. Really benefited in like the one team fight they had from having the maybe would have liked some more team fights in that later game, but not really able to pull it together. So that was game number one. I'm very excited to see what the next couple of games have in store. But first, guys, we will take a quick break.
내가 좀 못했다. 쏘리. 전령대 잘린 게 좀 큰데?
뭔지 아는데 괜찮아. 잘했어. 가자. 넥스 아직 있어 이거.
안 끝나.
괜찮아.
여기서 집 누르는 업데이트 타임. 어때? 내가 대놨다. 우리 거만 나와.
그거까지
이거 5분이라 대놨어.
나이스.
Welcome back to the place that formerly had a carpet and now does not, and it is called The Space. I'm Atlas, I'm joined by Chronicler here, and we're here to break down that first game. It was a very Brion game. That'd be how I'd
Let's
describe
start with the draft, because this draft at this point is going to send everyone into fits of insanity as it feels like we are retreading water yet again. It is the pickup of Lucian Nami versus Zeri Yumi or Zeri Lulu, depending on what happens on each of either side. You know, you can Nami first pick. In this case, it was the Zeri first pick. Huge variation there.
I mean, I hated
And then-
it. I hated the Zeri first pick.
Yeah,
the fact that they
I'm-
first picked Zeri is so silly to me. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's okay. I would prefer the Yumi as well. Suffice it to say that in the end, it wasn't great, but I think it was more so due to play from Teo. And then overall, you have a Sejuani with two melee laners, right? This composition from Kwangdong can definitely work, especially if you want to run, which we're going to get into that later, because the idea behind what Kwangdong was trying to do was great. The execution was not, but that's okay, because again, this is a team where Season himself is seeing Spring as one big screen. Like, that's the goal, which I actually think the underlying concepts are good. But if you look at the Brion comp, it does what it needs to. It fights well, it has team fighting power, and you know, no matter what the game state is, Brion will slowly make their way over to an objective. They will. Fine.
Let's have a look at one of those cases where they slowly go over to an objective, because this was the first time it was very decisive.
And this is, for Bulldog, unfortunately, kind of a flashback. He TPs to mid, and also Umti is spotted. And the Kwangdong bot lane responds by going in and all-inning and then dying. And it's these type of moments that if you can eradicate that instinct there as Taeyeon and Jun to use the when Anna dashes in, I think is fine, right? Like, if you're down nodes, you can still fight, but trying to flash forward aggressively there, I don't think that was a necessity. I don't think trying to really go for that fight had to be done, because you had the intel. Bulldog was really strong, came off a fresh back, but still had to clear his way first. Kara's at first move, Umti was spotted clearing ward, so you gotta get rid of moments like that in your gameplay. And Brion, to their strengths, and unsurprisingly, will fight you with as many people as they can possibly muster at any given point in time.
Generally, that is about 5, going out on a limb on that particular statistic. This was a game, to me, that entirely hinged on what happened on the bottom side. You already illustrated how well Kwangdong was starting to play around those side lanes. They managed to get that top inhibitors, things like that, but Taeyeon was down an extraordinary amount of gold against Henna. Like, the competition only gets more difficult to face.
Yeah,
as they
and
go further.
it's the worst part if you're Kwangdong, you're looking back. It's not like Brion was really able to leverage Henna's lead, right? We've seen teams completely win the game the moment that Lucian gets a lead. Brion is not that team. They're not really able to. So as a result, still, you couldn't really go for anything as Kwangdong.
Yeah, it was a really difficult time. Let's have a look at our final highlight here, as this was Kwangdong Freaks sort of being forced into this awkward situation where the side laning was working, but then they tried to defend.
I love the idea behind what they're trying to do here, which is because of the open end to the objective. Is they're trying to look for a good fight, right? Like, ultis go wide, that's not amazing, but it's not the end of the world either. The problem is that at this point, they are completely caught, right? And if you're actually 5v5ing against the bro comp and they know where you are, I do think it's very hard to win between Syndra, Maokai, Gnar, and Nami. You don't really have a lot of angles. So this call, I think, is as good as a chance as you're going to have to win this game. But the execution, again, is not good enough. Taeyeon walking up here and dying is what ends the game.
Yeah.
Because maybe bro panics, right? Maybe they do actually go for Baron. I think you can see they're already peeling off. And it's very likely that Kwangdong tries to push. Bro catches them, and they win this game regardless. But overall, it's got to be a little snappier.
It certainly does. Speaking of snappy, let's snappily get into the POG. Put that on your screen. Karis is going to pick it up. I think both of us unanimously voted for this one. Not that I have a real vote. I just like to pretend that I do. I would have definitely put mine in the Karis column. I think he had a phenomenal game here today on the system.
And the impressive thing to me wasn't even necessarily just the lane, it was how he played out the team fights. Bro is a team that stands or falls by their team fighting. You can see their response to the enemy split pushing is we fight with everyone, and you'll like it. And I think that Karis had the most impactful moments in this game. Key scatters, consistently finding targets, Tate in particular having a rough game, and finding his mark every single time, leading to unfortunate moments like this. And I actually prepared something myself as well. You can't really see it, but I'm telling you, we both have great art every time.
We absolutely
Mine says
do.
hashtag Bromomento in the original Bro Green.
Yep.
So I'm
and,
very proud.
This was some EN cast coordination as well with both of the votes from Wolf and Chronicler going to Karis. But ladies and gentlemen, let us get immediately into game number 2. Take it away, please.
Thank you, Spacers, for that wonderful breakdown. And yeah, I don't mind the umpteen votes he did. So good. His team early on. But Karis was really the team fighting god, was always in the right place, and did so much as well.
Yeah, I voted for him. I thought it was the same split between both of them, but look, it wasn't a clean game. But like I said, I really feel like there was, Bulldogs forever. He's very early in the forever part. He's got a long career ahead of him, but I really feel like that game showed us a lot, and I think both teams were tested. It was a really fun game for week 1, right, of Kwangdong and Rion here. Kwangdong will choose blue side. So here we go. See if they can run it back this time around, if we're going to see another Zeri pick here.
Yeah, any salty run backs?
I'd rather see it
In this
first
lobby?
pick Maokai, you know, and let's wait and see what the draft has in store.
Or an Ami. That's fine as well.
Or a Lucian.
Rion did not ban. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, with the UI going down, it looks like it actually, it was a bug rather than a missed ban. We'll get confirmation for you guys as soon as possible. What I will tell you is that we're going to have to remake the lobby, so Edgar could not join the lobby. Since he is coaching from home, we are remaking the lobby, that is why. They didn't ban, they just stopped touching the lobby, not to show any more bans or picks.
Good idea, for sure.
There he is in terms of his presence in the studio. For those who were not here for Brion's first match, or here we mentioned earlier, some of the coaching staff in Brion have contracted COVID-19. Effort as well is tested positive, so he's playing from home. Edgar is coaching from home. So that is why when Edgar couldn't join the lobby here, or perhaps had some voice communication problems, we just stopped. But we're back in. That was very quick.
Hey.
We might not.
Really,
Yeah, we are back in. Okay.
we've really streamlined this process. Streamlined. Ash, once again. So next is Renekton, and then it's Caitlyn.
Does feel like we might have a run back on our hands.
Then it would be Rise and Phoenix. No. Bit of a change.
Bit of a change, but also a bit of a not change. There's the Rise. Let's see what this final ban will end up being here. There's a lot of ways to look at this as Brion. And, I think given how Hannah has been playing as Caitlyn again, given how Brion has been playing the Lucian, successfully now 3 games in a row, I think you're kind of hoping that CV Max says, let's run back the Zeri pick here, because it's been working, right? Then you get the Yuumi Maokai, and it just becomes very easy.
You know who's very famous for being stubborn in his drafts?
Who's that?
CV Max.
Yes. By the way, I didn't mean to say Yuumi Maokai, I meant to say Nami Maokai, but yes. Wow. We're running it back, Valdez.
Wow, or Mom, as you showed us yesterday.
Yes. Well, if the result is similar, I might want my mom after what I watched in game 1. Now, where it gets interesting is going to be not right now, but actually in the second banning phase, because
the first phase is already pre-declared before the game begins.
it was. I do believe in predetermined fate now. Now they can ban the Jacks if they would like to, and this is where the things get a little bit different, because the first 6 picks are going to be the same, right? And okay,
Ban Syndra?
now that's an interesting call. And if they want to run the Silas again, I think that's a good option, because it really hurts his ability to engage.
The only issue is that Karis has proven time and time again he's got a pretty non-shallow champion pool. I wouldn't call it like extremely deep or anything, but I mean the guy can play Azir, he can play a Cloudy, right? He can play many different styles. He can play a lot of meta champions, so it's pretty difficult to ban him out specifically.
So both split push side lane conditions here for Dudu off the board. I think this is good adaptation here for Brion.
Kasante available this time.
Kasante is up. I think that they will potentially play Azir, like you were alluding to, or one of the champions Karis is good at, like we were talking about in game 1, if that Syndra is banned. But since it's not, Sunke just kind of making a sound that I think we all know what it means, you know, at the state of the draft right now. Like, we're running it back in a big way, potentially here, but the Kasante pick first. And Gnar is available. We've seen Gnar lane very well into this. But we've also seen in 5v5 team fights, especially the team that's ahead, can crush the Gnar. But it's going to be Syndra first, and they'll save that counter pick for Morgan since they've already removed Dudu's Fiora and the Jax.
Yeah, and if Kwangdong pick Kasante, you can just play Gnar instead.
If they pick Aatrox, there's a lot of answers too. Renekton.
Well, I say instead, Renekton is banned from
Oh,
the
you're
first.
right, you're right.
Yeah, Kwangdong sticking with their plan. So, Bro might just have the exact same roster, the exact same lineup of 5 champions. Whereas Kwangdong looking exactly the same with just Kasante.
Yeah, with no split push condition, which is how they hung by a thread in game 1. So it doesn't really feel like you have gained anything here except Kasante's team fighting ability. But you're still running Kasante into those scatters from Syndra. Obviously, you can break through. Okay, now we're changing it. Now we're saying, okay, we're just going full late game fighting. But the Kasante actually kind of loses some of its power, I would argue, in a comp like this, too, because, yes, he's very tanky and he can engage very well, but now you're playing Kasante into a Gnar matchup where the laning phase could be a little bit rough. And you're not trying to ult somebody out in this comp necessarily. You're really just trying to be a front line as the top laner and as the Sejuani in a lot of ways for the Zeri Victor. So this comp for Kwangdong feels like a better version in terms of the damage output and consistency and range damage in the late game, but a worse version if the early game goes the same way, because you are not going to be able to shape the map with Kasante the same way you did with the Jax.
I would totally agree with what you just said there. You know, Kwangdong, the only changes across the 2 lineups of 5 champions was Kasante and Victor. That's it. Everything else is exactly the same, so they will have better range and better power to like not get kited around in team fights, kind of like they did with their very low range in game number 1. But instead, they lose a lot of what they had, right, in game number 1 with some of the side lane pressure and stuff like that. They do gain, of course, the scaling, so that is going to be pretty interesting. I know that, you know, as we have said before, this is Humpty the Turtle, by the way.